Hi, I'm Heather Smith and welcome to the Accounting Apps podcast, exploring the accounting and business apps community. Can I encourage you to stay up to date with the curated content I'm sharing by subscribing to the podcast that you're listening to, signing up for the Accounting Apps newsletter available at accountingapps.io, and joining the Accounting Apps Mastermind group. Today, you're listening to a webinar that I recorded in late 2024, and it is how to stay focused and productive. Some of the discussions are around the slides that we're talking to, but for the most part, it is a conversation with Andrew Sims from SuiteFiles, and I think you'll get a lot out of it, but there might be some areas that you might just want to skip over. But I really hope that you enjoy this, How to Stay Focused and Productive with Andrew Sims from SuiteFiles. Thank you. Hello and welcome. Today, you're joining us on a webinar presented by SuiteFiles. We are discussing the topic, how to stay focused and productive. And my name is Heather Smith, and I am very lucky to be joined by Andrew Sims, the CEO of SuiteFiles. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Heather. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us along. Yeah.
Fabulous. Now, to start with, Andrew. Fortunately, Andrew and I have known each other for almost a decade, if not longer, I would suggest. Can I ask you, Andrew, does that sound right?
It does. I distinctly remember doing one of your podcasts in the very, very early days. And I remember where I was sitting over the road in a different office. And yeah, that would have been, it was probably 10 years ago. Yeah, it's pretty close to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, well, Andrew, could you just let people who are joining us today, let them know a little bit about you and what you do and a little bit about SuiteFiles?
Sure. So, we founded SuiteFiles just over 12 years ago now as a document management system that small to medium businesses could use if they were wanting to get all of their documents into the cloud. And we found a niche with accounting practices, particularly with our integrations with practice management solutions that accountants are using. About me, I guess I'm based here in Wellington, Wellington born and bred, been here for nearly 40 years, maybe more than 40 years actually. Took 10 years off and went to other places and did things like my first career and love, which was in forestry. So it's a little bit different what I'm doing today, but yeah, here I am. And yeah, as I say, SuiteFiles is 12 years old. We've got customers all around the world and tens of thousands of people using the system every day. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I never knew you were in forestry. I actually follow all the forestry threads on Reddit.
Oh, okay.
Bit of a trivia question for me. We all get upset when people chop down a tree that they shouldn't have chopped down. I don't know why people go and do that, but they seem to do that. That seems to be a thing. By attending today's session, you're going to gain an understanding of decision fatigue, friction fatigue, and their impact on focus, productivity, and the quality of work. And sometimes by articulating something, it helps you think about it and deal with it. So it's really good to have these words and these understandings around it. We're going to learn about how practical boundaries, work streaks, and task alignment with energy peaks can protect time and sustain your focus. And we're going to discover how bringing on the right systems can help your team increase focus and improve productivity. And I think it's possibly challenging to be focused and productive as we are nearing the end of the year. But it's something that's great to think about now, think about any sort of improvements that we can make as we set ourselves up for success in the new year. What do you think about that, Andrew?
It's one of those things that often we're quite busy and we say we're too busy to help ourselves, and probably that's exactly the right time to go and do these things that are going to help us protect our time and be more efficient. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even if you get hopefully you'll get something out of this that's just going to impact and make a big impact on you for future. One of the interesting things, it is a technology podcast here, is that, webinar here, and that I have heard from many people, and Andrew, maybe you can comment on this, many people trial a solution for the first time in the month of January because they've got that sort of wad of time off, especially here in Australia and New Zealand. Do you see that? Do you see people while they're relaxing doing those sorts of trials?
Yeah, a little bit. We actually, I guess for us, a busy period of the year is always actually the Australian year end. We find a lot, because we deal with a lot of accounting practices, it's about that time of year that they want to get themselves set up for the upcoming financial year. So that's probably busier than January. We probably find that maybe it's more a New Zealand thing. We get so little sunshine over here, unlike the Gold Coast, that we try to lap it all up, and too many people are at the beach to even think about trialing something in January. Yeah.
Well, that sounds definitely very, very smart. Yes, we actually here in Australia have all the way to something like the 27th of January off. So the whole of January is typically off for us. Bless us. Yeah. So let's talk about understanding types of fatigue. And I'm going to talk to three different types: decision fatigue, friction fatigue, and task fatigue. And I'm going to talk to them, and if anyone has any thoughts about this, pop them in the chat area, and then Andrew jump in and share any thoughts that you have on that. So decision fatigue is the mental drain from repeated decision making, which leaves you sort of with less energy and less sort of capacity to think about critical tasks. So all of those minor decisions that you have to make, like where is a file, or how do I respond to this email or that email, or how do I deal with this task, it just leads to sort of mental clutter. Okay, so decision fatigue is one of them. Friction fatigue is how constant interruptions, your email notifications, unplanned calls, just also lead to that gradual mental exhaustion, and they erode focus. There's also the friction fatigue when you're jumping between different apps, different technology, and even different like platforms. Like you may be. There was a Samsung sale yesterday, and my son messaged me. He's like, "We are a Google family, Mum. No, do not jump into Samsung and mess us up," because that friction fatigue of moving between technology can cause problems. Now, the other thing is task fatigue. I say when you have repetitive tasks become, again, mentally exhausting, and they cause you to lose focus because you're so used to doing them, you lose focus on what you're actually doing, and it leads to decreased attention, more mistakes and delays. People kind of tune out to that monotony. So I'm interested in your thoughts on that, Andrew. I know, are you wearing your SuiteFiles shirt today?
I am wearing my SuiteFiles shirt. One less decision to make every day. In fact, I'm sort of a creature of habit, and I get a little bit of exercise as I come to work every day, and I leave half my clothes here in the office, so I don't have to bring too much, and I don't have to make any decisions at home. I don't have to think about ironing. It's nice and easy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that was one of kind of the decisions that people make is around clothing. And Bill Gates apparently only wears white shirts, so he knows exactly what he's going to wear. And Andrew reducing that friction with his SuiteFiles shirt, which is fantastic. Do you incur friction fatigue?
Yeah, all the time. We have. We use all sorts of different tools for communicating. Slack, obviously email. There's people who send me text messages. I'm constantly trying to remind myself when I see something come in, and maybe I don't have time to respond to it. It's like, well, where did that come from as well? And trying to remember what system I need to respond to someone in. People could tag you in documents. They could tag you in, if you use things like Asana and Trello and other systems where you can tag people. There just seems to be notifications coming from everywhere, and I get bamboozled. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the situation kind of at the end of the day, I see a message and I'm like, oh, I know I need to respond to that, but the day is shut. And then the next day comes and I'm like, where was it? And it
Yeah.
can take you forever to find the message. I actually spoke to someone yesterday and he got the same message 8 times from sort of 8 different platforms because the person just put it everywhere. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like they're realizing that you can't find it and they're trying to get to you some way.
Yep.
And it can be quite challenging. Now, I'm going to pop a question in. Do we have a poll to run here, available to run here? And I'll pop it up. I'm not sure if you can activate that, if the poll is going to come up, but if not, I'm not sure of how that works. How many decisions do you make each day? I'm keen to know. Oh, okay, excellent. A poll is open. Okay, so there is a poll there. If you could take a few seconds to answer that. How many decisions do you actually make each day? And so we've got up to 5, up to 50, 50 plus, and who knows?
Yeah, it's a big question because how we defining decisions. There are so many different decisions that we make every day. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There are. Someone thinks that they make about 5 decisions every day. Excellent. I'll just give you 5 more seconds and then we'll turn that poll off. But I do think that you kind of have these micro decisions and then you have these bigger decisions. And in terms of staying on focus, oh, there we go. The poll went in my screen sharing. I'm not sure whether you can still see my screen or not. I'll have to. Okay, yep, you still got my screen. So one of the ways is understanding it, but then putting in procedures and processes in place to identify where the decision is and put something in place to replace the decision with this, if this, then that, if this, then that, and then you're reducing that number of decisions happening there.
Yep.
Now, we talked about being interrupted, and I'm keen to know, I put in a lot of things around stopping people interrupt me, and I have really strict boundaries in place. I only take organized meetings. I only take pre-planned phone calls. I don't answer random phone calls. I have all notifications turned off, except from emergency contacts, so as not to disturb me. It always shocks me when I'm sort of around people and you can see them like in a conference or something, and they just like their whole body jumps when their phone rings or something like that. And it's like, that's not a good way to be. So I was interested for people to pop into the chat area, and maybe you've got some thoughts on this. How long does it take you to refocus after you are interrupted? So
yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? I actually find I do a lot of those things as well, Heather, but you're probably a bit stricter than I am. I tend to interrupt myself, which I it's just sort of, I don't know, shiny lights or something like that kind of syndrome. But also being in an office, there's also people around us. And I'm pretty keen on having our team in the office as many days a week as we can. We're not here every day. And sometimes that means you're going to get interrupted as well. And I put up with that during those days because there's a lot of collaboration that goes on that's really, that I find really beneficial. But yeah, how long does it take me to get back into focus? It can take a bit of time. Just depends on what the interruption is and how distracted I really get.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As someone's put in there, the squirrel thing can be a really, the bright shiny lights, the chasing things, and it's a way of dealing with that. And sometimes a way of dealing with that is having like a notepad or something that's like, okay, when I need to squirrel, this is what I'm going to go and chase, and I'm going to keep putting it aside and focus on what I need to do. In terms of how long does it take you to refocus, there was a study titled "The Cost of Interrupted Work: More Speed and Stress." This was conducted by the University of California, and it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully refocus after being interrupted. And I think when we talk about busy, noisy offices, and just being open to interruption, that is something really to be mindful, because of course in your position, Andrew, you a lot of people are reporting to you. They need to interrupt you, they need to talk to you, but it's about having that time. Okay, this is clear, I'm working with you, and that's not really an interruption, it's moving everything forward. Or I have a focus time and I need to put in boundaries and take myself away from that.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of days a week where I tend to be in the office by myself, and I can power through things at that time. And so it's not just times of the day; it's days of the week as well when we're sort of structuring things around focus time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it does seem like from the people commenting in the chat area, they recognise that interruptions are stalling them and they wasting times in terms of interruption. So I wanted to jump in and talk about deep work and cultivating productive deep work. So this is that moment where you've got into a state that you're working really well and you're being really productive. And there's various ways to get there. Now, how do you go about getting into sort of deep work, deep productive work, Andrew?
That's a good question. I actually spend a little bit of time just clearing a few things off my plate beforehand. There'll be some tasks that I know I've got to do that are going to take 30 seconds each, and I just want to get rid of them. So I do that. I've got my Remarkable that I take notes on. I've got that beside me in case I need to write things down. That's been a game changer for me in terms of not having to use paper as an ex-forester, and having my notes with me everywhere I go. And sort of like a glass of water and maybe a little snack or something, and then I've just got myself set up, and I'm ready to go. I try to I don't turn the email off or the Slack off, but the notifications are gone, and I'm sort of minimise those screens. And actually, also on my desk, I've got I'm set up with my with sort of my speakers and things, and I've got some music playing. I just something in the background. I used to think that it would be great if I could turn something on like some sport or something like that in the background, but actually, what I really found was I just had my head turned watching what was going on the TV, so I've learned to turn that off. But the music, I can work with that fine.
Did you suddenly realise you had a sore neck and were trying to figure out why you had a sore neck?
Yeah, well, it wasn't just a sore neck. It was, how did I lose 3 hours? Yeah.
There always seems to be some sport game on as well, doesn't there?
Yeah, well, when you've got about 12 sports channels that you can choose from, there's something to watch. Yep.
Now, maybe pull back on what you just said there. Could you perhaps share with the audience what a Remarkable is and how you use that?
Oh, Remarkable! It's it's like an iPad. It's this thing. It doesn't look like much, but it sort of mimics a piece of paper, and it has a little pen, and you can write on it, and you can just constantly add page after page after page. And you can sync all of those documents online. So you can actually, I've got an app which you can use on your desktop or your phone, and you can actually see the things that you've been writing. You can type in it, or you can scribble on it if you prefer to do that. Mine looks like scribble. I'm sure some people actually, it looks like really nice writing, and they draw pictures. There's a new version now that has colour in it, which I kind of wish I'd waited a year, but that is what it is. But yeah, it's just a way to take a lot of notes. That it organises things in notebooks with pages, and yeah.
And that neatness of organising actually does help and save you time and helps you be more productive. So there are some specific techniques that I did want to talk about. The first one is the Pomodoro technique, which many people probably have vaguely heard of the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is actually Italian for tomato. And it represents the little tomato timers that you get in the kitchen. I actually got one to test it out, but it just makes too much noise. It goes tick, 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 tick. It drove me crazy. But what it's about is you turn it on for 25 minutes and then you go bam, I'm only working for 25 minutes. And so you've got sort of an end in sight, and you can just focus on working for 25 minutes. So you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, and then you repeat, and you do that for like a 3-hour period. And that can really help you, especially people who are a bit fidgety, work longer. It helps maintain focus, and it prevents burnout, because like sometimes you'll find people who go, oh, I just work 6 hours solid. Some people do, and then they're just exhausted. They haven't moved their body. Their body is tired, and it actually reduces the effort that they can put in rather than improves it. Now, also, you can use, there are focus playlists available to you on YouTube and on Spotify, and they play music. I think it's Baroque music, goes at the beat, that helps you focus. And you can actually watch them, and they will run through the Pomodoro technique with you. So you're not watching them, they're just kind of on the side for you. And you can listen to them and just having that movement happening, because as you said, you're listening to music, and sometimes you need that office ambience or that cafe ambience to keep you going, rather than the absolute silence, which can be quite oppressive. The other thing to be aware of is energy peaks, and understanding everyone's energy peaks are different. Understanding where your energy peaks are, and using your high quality, high detail tasks during the energy peaks, and plan around how you naturally work. Now, I know something you said to me was you sometimes have energy troughs, Andrew.
Yeah, I do.
And
Yeah, you sort of get to the point where you're kind of exhausted. Often just before now, actually, sort of the middle of the day here in New Zealand, it can be a period where it's sort of like, oh wow, jeepers, what can I do now? Get up, take a walk, get the blood flowing is one thing that I try and do. Sometimes I might just try and sit somewhere in a different part of the office or wherever I am, and take 5 minutes just to catch my breath, kind of thing. But yeah, it's something that I go through, 3 or 4 times a week, actually. Just feel this sort of lack of energy while I'm sitting down trying to do some work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a few things. There's a few more things in the here that I just wanted to touch on. That is what I'm showing you is the YouTube videos that have deep focus and study with me, which I know it says study, but that's kind of work streak with me. And I thought I put it in, but I must have lost it. I had you talked to me about sleep pods. You talked to me about how Wellington had sleep pods, and I actually went online and found them, and they were quite nice little sleep pods, because that's one of the things as well, as if you have an energy trough, have a nana nap and go and sort of rest, and then come back and work to sort of regenerate yourself if that's going to work with you. Now,
one of the local banks here has just built outfitted a new building, and they've got those sleep pods that you can book for, I don't know how long you book them for, maybe 20-30 minutes, and just get some time out. It's interesting that you book them, because I'd sort of go, oh, I need it now, as opposed to I know that at 3 o'clock I'm gonna want one.
I wonder what it does to your psyche if you book it. It's not like you book your bed at night or something like that, like I book a time. So I wonder what that does to your psyche, and whether you then sort of either power through it or, I'm not sure. I wonder if anyone's tried them. I wanted to also talk about managing your digital and your physical workspace in terms of making sure it's helping you be productive and helping you focus. So I am sharing a photo of, this is what my digital workspace looks, rather colourful, but how it helps me focus and how it helps me work. And I just wanted to touch on a few little things here. I'm just going to touch on a few things, and then Andrew's going to show you his workspace. And he's going to touch on a few things. But if you've got anything happening in your workspace that you particularly helps you stay focused and productive, please drop it into the comment area. So one of the things you can see on the floor is a like a sponge mat. And I have that sponge mat because it means, because I have an electric sit stand desk, it goes up and down and up and down. But when I'm standing on it, it means I'm actually standing on a soft surface. Now, I didn't initially do this for about 2 months, and my legs really started to hurt, and it meant I wasn't standing as much. But I do find the sit stand desk gives me energy, and it just kind of means I can sort of shuffle around and actively think, bring in oxygen at a different level. So highly recommend the sit stand desk, and mine's electric, so it goes up and down all through the day. The sponge on the floor, and on the right you actually see an air purifier. So I have an air purifier in my room, and it's currently on 4. So that's so it means that that's the level of the purity of the air. So it was on 26 about 2 hours ago, because there was some movement happening in my room with my dog entering. So it's really interesting how it does actually clean the air. The first time I put it on, it went to 40. Took about an hour to get down to 4 from that. So just a few productivity things. You can see I've got a well-lit room. And someone mentioned oxygen is really, really important, that supply of oxygen. I have good oxygen in this room, but I know that I have gone into conference venues and they put you into a small room, and I find myself sort of falling asleep in it, and that's lack of oxygen. Okay, that's something I think that we don't always think about. But Andrew, let's move to your room. There's your desk, Andrew. Yeah. Look at that clean desk.
Yeah. You gave me an excuse to clean it up. But what you can see there are some speakers. I do like some level of noise. I find it it's almost distracting having silence for me. Conversely, I've got to obviously consider the rest of the team, because every now and then I've had people say, "Oh, that music's not something that I like, or it's too loud, or something like that." So I've just got to work with that. Some people will put headphones on in that situation. I don't really like that. Personally, I feel like I'm sort of closed in if I were to do something like that. But I've got the speakers, so I've got Spotify going most of the time. 2 screens. Obviously, you had a number of screens there too, Heather. I just finding multiple screens.
You've got 3 screens.
Well, I do with the laptop screen as well, and I do most of my work on the 2 big screens, and the laptop screen just tends to be the Spotify, and maybe Slack sits down there sometimes too, in terms of if I've got that up with notifications going. But you can see the Remarkable on the desk there as well, ready to go. There is also a pen and paper, just in case I decide I want to do things that way. But it's pretty simple how I've set myself up. There's a little cradle there that my cell phone would normally go in. I have my phone in me. I took the photo, so I keep that out of the way. It is, it's like you said, it's pretty much on do not disturb, so that I can basically screen who's calling and make sure that it's someone who I should be talking to at an appropriate time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and interestingly, I had a cradle like that for my mobile device as well. And I realized it was distracting me because things were coming up on it.
True.
So I think let's pop to so I'm very much, here's the photo. That on the right side, that is the photo of the sleeping pod at the bank in New Zealand.
Bank in New Zealand, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's quite nice. I think I've got enough room to make one of those in my office. But very much just simply putting no notifications on your phone. One of the things with your phone, in case you're not aware, if you turn it down that way, it actually turns off quicker than if you just put it down the other way. And I wanted to just show this quick slide here, which is my daughter made me this. She actually made it for me, but she made it for herself because she needed to know when she needed to be quiet. So if that sign's outside my door, she's like, okay, I need to be quiet now. And so sometimes I wanted to highlight that. So sometimes defining, this is my busy time, this is my A time, this is my interrupt me time, this is my quiet time or whatever it is, lets other people, it gives them permission to interrupt you when they need to interrupt you, rather than putting those ice barriers in place permanently. So do you do A time, B time, C time, or anything like that, Andrew?
No. Not really, no. I'm just sort of all time. Yeah.
All. Now, I wanted to just pop up. We wanted to talk about digital decluttering, how streamlining your digital photos, your inboxes, and your desktop can help you focus. This is obviously a personal photo, but what this is I collected all of my photos and digitize them. You send them to the magic photo shoebox and it digitizes them. But what that has meant is I don't have photos and clutter anywhere. Nowhere in the house you'll find a photo. They're all online and they're so easy to be found. So this is like similar in a way to your SuiteFiles system, is that all of the paper from the business can go into SuiteFiles and is now easier to be found. And everyone has so much joy over what I did with those photos, which initially was a bit of work, but everyone now knows where all photos go and where they can be found, and it's so streamlined once it has happened. Would you like to talk a little bit about digital decluttering, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, pretty like with your photos, you'll put structures in place about where you want things to live. And SuiteFiles is it's simple, easy to use structures, but they're very common, and you know them and you understand them. So we'll have our clients set everything up with folders for every one of their clients, and under their standardized folders or standardized folder structure that they can template and reuse time and time again, so that as you're navigating around the system, if I go into folder X, I'm going to find these things. No matter what the client is, and that also helps with search, not just with navigating. So search is done in many ways, not just what's in the document or what the document name is, but also around locations of files as well. So that all that can help you just drill in very, very quickly to find what you need when you need it. Probably, reducing that fatigue, particularly that friction fatigue of how long it will take to get something that you need. You could spend, a few seconds, a few minutes, maybe dozens of minutes in extreme circumstances. But you can do it nice and quick when you've got that structure all set up properly for you.
Yeah, and I think, I think one of the things that people don't think about is sometimes things are so hard to find, you kind of go, oh, it'd be really good when I'm doing this if I could find this, but it'll be so hard to find, I just won't even bother. And I think people don't think about that time. So like if you look at the photos there's a photo of me as a princess with a wig in the kindergarten school play, and I wouldn't bother even looking for that if I hadn't done this, because it would have taken me hours. And that's the same thing. And I know that that's a sort of a personal situation, but there are these things where you go, it'd be really good. I need to make this decision. This is the information I need for it, but I can't find some of that stuff. So I'm not even going to bother finding it. And I'm going to make this decision with less information than I really need. And getting to that, wow, everyone knows we can find everything. We can get everything. We can tap into everything in seconds. So it does open up. And the more information we have that is accurate, that is timely, the faster we can make decisions, which is always very important to me as a management accountant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back even a step further. It's not just finding it. It's sometimes you choose not to save it to the right place. You go, I need to save this somewhere I can find it later on. You go, oh, that's too hard because I wouldn't know where to save it, and I've got to think about that. So if you've got yourself sorted out and that structure in place, you'll know I'm going to save this here, and then I'm going to come back and find it there later on. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, and that structure of and the training of staff in actually doing that as well.
Absolutely.
So this moves us very nicely on to adopting the right systems and processes to combat that fatigue. So it's going, okay, let's have systems and processes in place that help us with all of those those fatigues that we were talking about. Now, the first one I wanted to talk about was calendar management. I'm very you do things and you don't realize how different they are to other people, but I'm very strict about my calendar management. And feel free to drop in the comments area if you've got any thoughts about this. So for my calendar, I block times out that you can't disturb me, but I have open times when you can disturb me. I work globally, so I also have open times that kind of start sometimes from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night. You can disturb me during those times for the people who are internationally based that need to. I color code things, so I use Gmail, Google Calendar, but whatever calendar system, you can color it. And the coloring means I can sort of quickly look at it and go, okay, this is hard work time, this is easy work time, this is meeting time, and I can kind of think about what that is, just have that visual representation of it. I do a monthly audit of my calendar. So at the end of the month, I actually download the entire calendar, summarize it, and examine how I spent my time, and identify if there were things that I shouldn't have done. Reflect, okay, should I have taken that meeting? Why did I take that meeting? Did I need to ask questions about what that meeting was going to be before I attended that meeting? Okay, because sometimes people pull you into meetings that you possibly shouldn't have been in, and you're kind of half an hour into it and you've wasted time. You don't know why you're there. So all of those things around your calendar can tighten it up and really boost efficiency. Do you have any thoughts about calendar management, Andrew?
You've touched on something that I do, and I didn't even really thought about it. But the color coding of meetings or time in the calendar, I do that. Sometimes it just looks like a colourful calendar, but actually I do know that these are all company meetings. These are team meetings. This is some time for me. I'm out of the office or whatever it might be. I find that really useful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in Google Calendar, I'm not familiar with Microsoft, so people can pop in and tell me what Microsoft was like, but I can actually label them all. I can. There's like 8 colors are available to me, and I can label them all. And that really helps me go, what I'm doing. And it also, the lead time, how much time I need to think about before, because you have a client meeting, but you need time before that client meeting to think and prepare for it and stuff like that. Now, I also wanted to talk about meeting tools, okay? So, and preparing for meetings. So I use Calendly and Doodle. Now, Calendly, what it allows you to do is set up different meeting types. And with those meeting types, so if say someone randomly wants to speak to me, I'm like, okay, you can have 15 minutes and they can go through on a link for 15 minutes. It asks them questions that they complete. It gives them time options. And then at the end of it, it asks for a payment. And the payment automatically creates an invoice and goes into my my bank account So my Stripe account, I think it's attached to Stripe. So for people who are asking, because I'm sure many of you out there are actually asked for time frequently, and it's like, do you give it away or do you charge for it? So you can use a solution like Calendly to do that. Now with my existing ongoing clients, there's another calendar booking form for them, the VIP booking form. But again, it will ask them questions. So I'm aware if I need to prepare for that meeting, and they can see when they can actually book in. And I've always got an option to let me know if you're working outside hours, and I can change it and give them the overseas booking form. So that means there's no going back and forth on emails. It's very simple. All the questions that I need to ask are there, and then I just the booking comes in, and I just go click and accept and don't think about it until it's time's to come. Also, I invite meeting transcribers to my meetings. I personally use otter.ai, but you can have Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Otter, Firefly, and Zoom now does it as well. By having a meeting transcriber come to your meeting, it means you can focus proactively listen and focus on what's happening in the meeting. And then afterwards, you get a transcript of what happened in the meeting. Zoom, they're all generated by AI these days. And if you have Otter.ai, you can jump in and ask it questions about the actual meeting. Plus, it will give you a list of activities that you need to do from the meeting. So Andrew and I had a meeting yesterday ahead of this session, and Otter AI and Zoom both transcribed the meeting, and they both gave me a list of activities that needed to be followed up before the session today. And it just means I can focus. It means I don't need to take notes, and then I can play it back or check off the activities. Again, it reduces the fatigue of having a meeting, plus summarizes the meeting, saves you a lot of time. Have you used have you used things like that, Andrew?
We certainly use tools. We use Teams internally. We often record meetings. I've not personally used the transcripts. For one reason or another, I often take notes during meetings. I find that for me personally, writing something down tends to stick a little bit better than trying to remember it. I'm still getting into maybe the habit of finding the time to actually watch a transcript or look at the transcript afterwards and go, oh, okay, here's things that I need to do. I've sort of often moved on pretty quickly afterwards. Yeah.
Well, I think it is interesting when it gives you a summary of things to do, which we both did. So, but for people who do go, oh, okay, I've got a summary of things that I need to do, check off them before next. And for anyone here, you be aware of the data security around that. So I believe Microsoft Teams has really a lot of the accountants who are having client conversations are working in Microsoft Teams.
Yep.
Awesome. So moving on from there, let me talk about now. Keen to talk about document management, and this is really your wheelhouse, Andrew. So, how document management can help you in terms of putting those processes in place. Now, I know that we have a few slides for you, so let me pop to if you want to talk to that, and I can pop to the slides that we've got there.
I think we've talked about a couple of these things already, but standardizing how you're doing things is one of the really key things that we find our user base just loves. It's having a repeatable process for how you're structuring your filing systems and making sure that all the documents are in the right place. So that you can find them really easily. And then there's things just like streamlining tasks and also reducing friction. So we sort of think of ourselves as more than document storage. Storage obviously implying that's where I'm keeping everything and I can go there to find it. When we start talking about document management and sort of intelligent workspace kind of concepts, we can actually help people do tasks a lot quicker without jumping between other systems, so reducing friction fatigue. And there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 different applications that you could buy individual point solutions for, where we've got solutions for that sitting within SuiteFiles. So you don't have to, as I say, don't have to have multiple browser tabs open, switching between them, moving things around, documents between the different systems so that you can do things. You can just do it straight out of SuiteFiles. And one of the key things is collaboration as well. So how can you share information that you've got sitting in your document management system internally and also externally? So with your staff, making sure that everyone's aware of what's going on and you're communicating with them appropriately, but also with your customers or other third-party suppliers that you might need to share information with, and actually collaborate together in real time on various documents that you've got in the system if you need to. Yeah.
Excellent. And if I move here, this actually, I think I've got 2 slides here that highlight the different tools that you have on the SuiteFiles platform. So some of them you've talked to. Is there any ones that you want to address?
I guess our client portal is something that's a really popular feature or tool that our customers use, and that is sharing information both ways. So you can put documents into your client portal that your client can then see, but they can also upload documents into that portal as well, so they come straight back to you, and you get notified that they are there. So it saves email. You don't have to attach documents to email and send them back and forth, which we know that there's concerns around that and email getting intercepted. And it's secure because you need to log in. Only the right people can access the portal to put to read or upload information into. So that's a really key one. Probably on the next slide is going to be our document signing as well, and this is something that is a capability within SuiteFiles that people just love. There's thousands of documents every day that are being sent out, and again, this is something around fatigue. If you are using a third-party solution, and I'll pick on DocuSign because it's the big beast of the system. You've got to take your documents out of wherever you are and move them into DocuSign, set them up, send them out for signing, and the document will come back to DocuSign, and you've got to extract them from there and put them back into your file system. We cut all that process out. We can populate the document with information from things like your practice management solutions if you're an accounting firm. So you don't have to pull information from there manually. You can do that automatically, and then we can send the document out for signing, and the signed document will come straight back to the same place where you sent the document out from within SuiteFiles. It just happens. And of course, there's notifications that you'll get around that, probably to interrupt your day, but there's notifications that'll come in and tell you that the document has been signed. And it just happens. It just cuts down 2 or 3 different applications that you'll need to make that process work normally.
Yeah, and eliminating decisions, eliminating sort of that friction, and sort of streamlining what you're doing there. So a real just makes the whole thing pleasant, doesn't it?
It does. It's you just don't have to leave the SuiteFile system to make that happen. PDF tools are something that we don't talk about a lot, but that's another thing that people really like. So again, you don't need your Adobe or your Foxit or Nitro PDF tool type subscription. You can actually do all the annotation and working with PDFs directly within SuiteFiles. So you don't have to upload it to another system, do the work, save it, and then re-upload it back into your document management. But it all just happens. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Now, are there any other tools there that you wanted to touch on before I move on?
I think it's always hard to go past email management as well. As a capability, that was one of the very first things that we realized we didn't have many years ago. When we first started, when we produced the SuiteFiles application and started selling it, we got a lot of feedback around email management. And to be fair, we didn't even understand what people were talking about. But now we do. Now we actually get it. And, this is the idea that, again, this is a friction reducer. If I send you an email, Heather, it sits in your mailbox and only you can see it, which might be appropriate, but also it might be actually that there are other people who you need to share that email with. Now, you might be really good and you might remember every time an email comes in to forward it to everyone who could ever possibly want to see it. That might be great, but it might be information that those people who receive it might not need to look at for, I don't know, a week, a month, whatever it might be. It might be for their information. They might be not so good. They might, file it somewhere that they shouldn't file it, maybe like the trash can, and go, oh, yeah, I don't need that. And then one day they go, oh, I need that information that was in an email. Where would I find that again? And that whole process starts around, where do I go? How do I find this? When we save emails into SuiteFiles, they go into the client folders, and everyone knows that it's there. And they can just do a quick search or read through the various emails, and they go, oh, I've got all the information. I know I don't have to go around every person in the organisation who's ever worked with that client and say, did you get this email? Did you get this email? And that friction that comes with that, it's just eliminated. Yeah.
Yes, and procedures in place mean that you can engage new staff, and staff know what's happening, and it simplifies the whole thing. Excellent. Anything else that you wanted to touch on there?
Oh, I think that's probably that's probably plenty for now. Yep.
Fantastic. So I have a sort of a slide here. The only people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who've benefited from you having none. So I do encourage people to think about what we've talked about today in terms of the different types of fatigue and putting in boundaries and sort of putting in processes and procedures to move you along in that world. And if anyone has any questions, I know we had one question that came in which I've answered. If there are any other questions, I do encourage you to ask them in the chat area. But I will. I have here what I do is I put up a what to look for when choosing an app, and lots of different things to look for. I always like to include that in a webinar presentation. Sort of very much my focus is always about the effective automation and iteration produces timely, clean data to surface information for courageous and fast data-informed decision-making. And so by understanding this technology and by implementing and using technology, sort of you're in a better position to surface information, data-informed information for decision-making, which I think is very exciting for us in this space. And that's where something like a tool like SuiteFiles can support us. Awesome. So if there are no questions, I think we're coming to the end of the hour. I would encourage you to connect with both Andrew and I on LinkedIn or wherever you'd like to connect with us. You can subscribe to my newsletter, and I think I have a slide here. Fantastic. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope you have found interesting conversation, and you've pulled out a few nuggets that you can use in 2025. So thank you very much. And thank you, Andrew. Oh, you can't see my thank you. Something on the screen. You can't.
Kind of there, yeah.
So thank you so much, Andrew. It's been great having this conversation with you. Well, really appreciate everyone who's joined in. Please connect with us and let us know what you thought of it. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Heather. We look forward to seeing more webinars from you early next year.
Will do.